Let's move on with the fucking TriMet board meeting.
Great. That's a super thing. Thank you.
Super thing.
The next resolution coming to the board is Resolution 22-08-47, appointing members of the 22-23 Advisory Committee and updating the Advisory Committee bylaws. Mr. General Manager.
Thanks, President Simmons. Members of the board, in addition to approving the appointment of members to the Transit Advisory Committee, this resolution requests board approval of committee bylaws, amendments to the bylaws. So specify the number of terms advisory committee members may serve, update the number of rider representatives that serve on the committee, and satisfy a request by ODOT, or Oregon Department of Transportation, to include more specifics about the committee's duties and decision-making processes. The proposed members for the committee are listed in your board packets in Exhibit A. The Keep Oregon Moving Act, which was adopted as state law in 2017, requires the board action on these items, and your approval is recommended.
Okay. Keep Oregon Moving Act, another law where they stole your money without your vote. Gave it a nice little name. They always give it a nice, They always give these things nice little names to try to fool you. It's not going to keep anybody moving. It's just going to be a bunch of pork barrels. But all these acts, the Inflation Reduction, it's just all of these things, they give them fake names. I'm sure whoever's watching this knows that. These are all fake names. The CARES Act, they stole all the money from themselves. The Inflation Reduction Act, which is going to actually increase inflation. I mean, the list goes on and on and on and on, how they lie about everything, including this. Let's take a look at this here. Blah, blah, blah. Members of the advisory committee represent transit users, seniors, persons with disabilities, employers, environmental, educational, and minorities, youth, and low income, as well as service providers. The TriMet Transit Equity Advisory Committee and Committee on Accessible Transportation. So this is God. The Advisory Committee's HB 2017 plan for each funding period must be approved by the Board of Directors. Approval by the OTC is required before the money is dispersed. This means that TriMet staff must work with the Advisory Committee to modify the plan as needed. Okay, blah, blah, blah. Anything useful here? Not really. All right. What's this? Oh, here's your one-page contract extension. Yippee for you. What's this? Okay, here's a list of people. Look. Here's your list. Never heard of him. Sarah Ione, I've heard of. Never heard of him. Never heard of him. Never heard of him. Never heard of any of these people. Let me see. Okay, I've heard of this Wei Ong, I guess it is. I've heard of that. Opal. I don't know, man. I don't know. Whatever.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve this resolution?
So moved, Kim.
Thank you, Director Kim. Is there a second?
Way, second.
Thank you, Director Way. It's been moved and seconded. Does anyone wish to make any comments? Director Edwards, you have your hand raised. Is it still for this one or the last one? Oh,
I'm sorry, it was for the last one, but I do have a comment. I think this is very important that we have the diversity on these committees, and certainly there's value in that.
mm-hmm.
And I think staggered terms are certainly encouraged as well. So
mm-hmm.
this is a good thing.
Yeah. Thank you. And the comment I would make is appreciation to the staff and the committee chairs for hearing the feedback from the board at our June meeting, it was, and taking that into consideration in some of the amendments that they made to the bylaws, and also providing us with the background of the committee members that are being recommended for both reappointment and new appointments to the committee.
Absolutely.
So, Dr. Gonzalez, did you have any comments?
Dr. Gonzalez? Is he a doctor?
I'm not a doctor.
Oh.
I did play
Oh boy, Ozzy.
one on television once. But thank you.
Well, I'll make you a doctor. Okay.
Ozzy's the funniest one. I like Ozzy. I do, even though he's a hack. He's my favorite hack on the board. He would have made a good chairman of the board. I would have loved to see him in her role. He's the one that should have had that role, as far as I'm concerned, anyway.
Okay. By proxy.
No, not much to add. President Simmons,
Yeah,
really, I just echo this.
What is there to talk about here? It's like, okay, appoint them. Go through the routine. Go through the the baloney that they're going to go through here.
Sentiment of gratitude for clarity on this. I really look forward to the work of this body and see what these voices, the new voices, can bring.
Yeah, right.
Great.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you.
I'm sure it will be great. Meanwhile, you have no transit system, but don't pay attention to that. Forget about that. Forget about the fact that you don't have an actual transit system. We're not going to talk about that.
So, seeing no other comments or hands raised, so we will go ahead and vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Any opposed?
No.
Any abstentions? The motion carries. So next.
All right, that's it. We're going to do these one at a time. I'm not going to put all this stuff in together, but let me show you something here. I was thinking about the case of Kayla Watt, who's that woman. And she's apparently, and I'll just read a little bit. I went off the deep end, and when I realized my regroup request was going to be denied. Okay, so she is going to lose her job because of time loss. Okay. Now these, it's the number one reason people lose their job at TriMet is time loss, and they're very bad about this over there. I, for example, had 400 hours of sick time, and I ended up under the letter because I took more than 10 days once, or I was 5. In my case, I guess it was less than that even. I mean, they allow you to take only so many sick days a year, and then you go on what's called goals, and if you don't meet the goals, you're fired. So time loss is the number one reason people get fired out of there. Now, I made this tweet here. TriMet is still firing people for what they call time loss. Basically, that means the employee is unreliable. This is an interesting state of affairs, because TriMet management holds its employees to standards the organization can't meet, which is they're unreliable. The organization in general is unreliable. It's not a reliable system. You are taking your chances when you use it. People do get stranded there, and you do get late often. So TriMet, which is totally unreliable now, fires its employees for being unreliable, which in turn makes TriMet even more unreliable. Now, that's true because, okay, Kayla Watt, for example, a trained bus driver, 9 years there, I think, 9 years. Did a good job from what I could hear on the radio, was very good with riders. So that's just now thrown out the window. Okay, 9 years of experience is gone because her life is a mess. Okay, her life is a mess. A lot of people's lives are a mess, and there's lots of reasons for it. But the fact that TriMet can't work around some of this stuff really troubles me. So they have a 9-year experienced person gone because they couldn't meet their expectations of TriMet. And TriMet itself is not a reliable agency. So she's getting fired for the same thing that they can't do. The organization it's not reliable, but they're not held to the standard of the employees. The employees are held to the higher standard than the organization itself. Now, I don't understand why TriMet doesn't figure out how to keep these employees in some other fashion. For example, maybe she should be demoted to the part-time, or maybe they should have a whole new class of operators of people who've been fired for time loss and who will be on call for when they need people. Okay, you can just work on call until you find something else. But to just throw out a 9-year experienced operator because she can't meet the expectations of the TriMet organ, I find that to be a completely absurd condition, and especially now. So now she was unreliable. We know that, but now there's no driver on her run at all. So they went from an unreliable employee to no employee. How is that? How does that serve the public? It doesn't. It's a failed transit system operating with failed policies and failed leadership. And nobody's going to talk about it anywhere except on one obscure blog that has 10 people that care.